Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Atlantic Bushcraft Adventures. Tonight we are on episode 342, and joining us tonight we have Jim Poirier. And this fellow here, outdoorsman, adventurer, kind of learning a little bit about life and a little bit about health. So we thought we'd bring him on the show. We'd get his insight on some stuff because, as we have said in the past, it's all about sharing the experiences, sharing the stories, maybe have a few laughs, and hopefully by the time this episode's done, maybe we learn something. If nothing else, we have a good time.
Yeah, and just looking to see if our thing came up online yet. I don't see us live. It's just
We should be. We're running. We'll
okay.
assume that it's all good. Anyway, so Jim, little background on Jim. Actually, you know what? Ben, you give a little background on Jim because you probably know a little better than I would. I know basically what I said, and other than that, I'm leaving it to you guys.
I'll do my best because I think he's got quite the interesting history, and I'm definitely not going to do it justice. But I'll start with how I met Jim. So once I got out to BC, as I sometimes do, advertised on Facebook that I was looking for somebody to do some adventures with. And Jim was one of the few that reached out and actually met up with me. And after not too much conversation, we decided to try and do a trip. And we've done a few trips since then, but I think Harrison was our first trip.
Yeah.
And, got to check out a few new places and camp. And I've heard a lot about Jim, about his camping, his motorcycle trips. He's traveled on boat for most of the Pacific, a lot of it. Anyways, he's been around. He's done a lot of things. But I think the thing I really wanted to talk to him about this week was his motorcycle trips and the ones he's done over the last couple of years and how he got to doing these type of trips. Because Jim, I mean, no offense, is not a spring chicken. He's been doing this for a long time, and he's probably doing this for a lot longer than I will probably be able to do this. And so I kind of look up to that and hope that I'm able to go nearly as far or as fast as he can at it when I'm that age. And if I can, I'm going to be pretty proud of myself because I've drove with this guy through a lot of BC. We've gone way up north. We've done some pretty neat things. And there's times I'm struggling to keep up on my bike, and I think technically my bike's faster. so there's that too, right? So yeah, so tell us a bit about yourself. How did you get here? How did you end up talking to us foolish people on the
Well, I'll put this in a little thumbnail thing. It goes way back to the first of all, I'm 74 years old, so and a couple of my philosophies is try not to let the old man in, even though he tries to get in. Try not to do that, and step outside your comfort zone at every opportunity. Your comfort zone is your biggest prison in life, and those walls surround you. And if you don't walk through those walls, you miss out on a lot of things in life. So that doesn't mean to say that I'm going to go out there and do really foolish things or anything. I'll try to stay within my skill set, maybe go beyond it a wee bit. I have a brother I ride with who tends to keep me in those perimeters. And but you do have to take it on and experience it. So it goes back to the 70s. I started riding motorcycles on the highway, and I've never been a day rider. When I get on my motorcycle, I want to go somewhere. So I rode all the provinces in Canada, and I think I did about 28 states and everything between the years of about 1972 and up to about 1977, 78. And then I got into sailing, and then I went sailing, and same thing applied. I wasn't a day sailor, and I had to go somewhere. So I ended up doing long distance ocean cruising and things. It was just things I dreamed about doing and I wanted to do. So I came back on my last sailing trip in 2014. My wife did not want to sail with me long distance. So the last trip I did was over a year, and I was away from her and my, even though my kids joined me on parts of my trip, I decided that long distance cruising now is something that would become kind of selfish. So I quit that a little reluctantly, but I did. And then I went back into motorcycling. In between time, my wife and I travel in truck and trailer whenever possible. We try to go places that are a little unusual, a little off the beaten track. We don't like taking the road most used. We like to take the roads least used. And so that all leads up to getting now into backcountry riding. And I started this about 5 years ago. And my brother, who's 15 years younger than me, his name's Mark, he's been riding dirt bikes his whole life. So he is the instigator in me getting into a little trouble from time to time in the backcountry, but he respects my level of skill set, and he just takes me a little beyond it, which is probably a good thing for me. So it's led me to do a couple of long distance trips, and this is what I think we're leading up to on this, is that my brother said we should go to Tuktoyaktuk. And the more I thought about that, the more I thought that's a good idea. And so we did that in 2023. And in the spring of that year, my doctor called me up, and after a physical exam, he had done a PSA test. He says, Jimmy, he says, your PSA is shot way up. He said, you need to go to a urologist. I did that. He said, yeah, you need a biopsy. I said, well, I'm going on this trip to Tuktoyaktuk on my motorcycle. He says, well, go. He says, when you get back, you can get your biopsy. It'll take that long anyway. So we did that. I was gone 40 days. I camped 30 nights in the wilderness. About, I guess, 22 of those nights by myself, because my brother didn't ride up there with me. He met me in Dawson City, and we did the Dempster Highway together. It was a great trip. We did 11,000 kilometers from Vancouver to Vancouver, and I loved every minute of it. So then we did that. My brother had done it a couple of times already, so he said, we should do Copper Canyon in Mexico. So for those of you that don't know about Copper Canyon in Mexico, you need to do a little research, because it's one of the least known amazing secrets of Mexico. Most people know it for a train ride that goes through the canyon. It's an amazing place. It's something like 7 times larger in landment area than the Grand Canyon. And it has ridges that go up over 9,000 feet and valleys that drop down to below 2,000 feet. And you have to cross those ridges to get in and out of every branch of those canyons. So it was, we went and did that. We had intended to take a lot of off-road roads, because there's many. We ended up not being able to take too many of them, mainly because the old guy really had reached his level of competence on very steep, washed out boulders. And thank God for my brother, who very patiently helped me get through all that, because it was pretty rough for me. And that kind of gives you a little thumbnail sketch of how I got here to talk with you guys tonight. So
I met you just before you did the Tuktoyaktuk trip.
Okay.
And so we were friends on Facebook when you left, and I had the privilege of actually watching, because every time you got signal, you posted something.
Yes,
some photos.
Is this the guy that you were following way back when, and you sent me his link?
Yeah.
Okay, so I actually started following you around the same time. Ben kept talking about this fella that was doing these motorcycle trips, and he sent me the thing, and I was kind of watching you. It was through Instagram, wasn't it?
I did Facebook.
Facebook, okay. I knew it was something, but it was, anyway, I kept seeing them come up. So okay, now it's all starting to link together and make a little sense here. Just before we jump back in, we do get a couple people join us here in the comments. We got Fish85, an old friend of ours, Danny, Red Sand Adventures, another good friend of ours, and we have Eric joining us, another long-time listener there. One of the questions they've come up for here, and I think you might have answered this, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. So Fish is asking, what's the longest trip you've taken, which I assume is the 40 140-day one, but what was the longest ride for a day? How long were you in the saddle at your peak?
I guess in recent years, if you go back to my more youthful years of riding, I had an old 1973 R75/5 BMW, and I did a 1,050 miles in 19 hours to test the seat called the 1,000-mile solo saddle, and the seat worked very well, but the rest of my body was a little shook up.
I was going to say, back in my prime, if I did that, I'd be all locked up solid.
Yeah, the Beamer stood up. Bikes are way tougher than we are. As of recently, probably around 750 kilometers was the longest. And for me, that's a pretty long day now. I'm pretty tired at the end of that day.
I was going to say, for me, roughly, if you say 750 kilometers, that's about 7.5 hours of riding for one day. I average about 100 kilometers an hour. You know what I mean? That's an average, a little faster, a little slower here and there, but safe to say about 7.5 hours then?
Yeah, that would be pretty accurate.
But you're also assuming pavement for the most part. I know a lot of your trips aren't all.
Those would have been paved trips. Off-road trips, maybe 500 or 600 kilometers. Going to Tuktoyaktuk, we left a place called Fort McPherson, rode to Inuvik, then rode to Tuktoyaktuk, and there which we met weather about, I think it was 9 degrees and about a 40-mile-an-hour Arctic wind blowing off the ocean, and it's starting to rain. And we decided that was not going to be a place we were going to stay, so we turned around, rode all the way back to Tuktoyaktuk. So I think that day we did between 500 and 600 kilometers. And but you got 24-hour daylight, so you don't feel the time as much. And I only had one crash in that ride. So
actually, that was a question I was going to bring up. So in all your travels, have you had any accidents that set you back? And I mean memorable ones. Let's go with that, because I do know when you're traveling that long a distance, you're going to have flat tires, especially with a bike. You may have a couple little laydowns and stuff like that, but you got something that's a little memorable, maybe a little funny for us?
Well, yeah, I guess it could be humorous. This goes back to the 1976, and I was doing the 10 provinces, and then came back to the States. I was in New Brunswick on a bridge, and the traffic was moving very slow, about maybe 10, 15 miles an hour, and 2-lane bridge, traffic bumper to bumper, both directions. And I happened to look over the bridge down at the water, and my passenger said to me, "Look out!" And I hit the brakes just as I bumped the car in front of me. I went off my bike and opened my eyes, and I was underneath the front bumper of a car with a car tire right in front of my face.
Oh, geez.
So fortunately, I think there is somebody who watches over us, because that guy saw it happen and he just jammed on his brakes and stopped. So I don't know if you can call that a sense of humor, but it certainly was one of those things, a little bit stupid on my part, even though we were going so slow. Keep your eye on the road all the time. Never take your eye off the road. As far as that goes, I've crashed. I don't think you can ride. I think I've done about 175,000 miles of riding. I don't think you can ride that far without having a crash now and again. I'm a very defensive driver these days, but that doesn't mean to say it couldn't happen. And I've had a few spills out in the bush that. You look back, you think, "Oh my goodness!" But anyways, I haven't busted anything on the bike yet.
Well, that's always a plus. So Ben, you guys have been out for a little bit of a ride, you said?
We've done a few trips now.
Yeah.
There's 3 that I can think of quickly off the top of my head. It's been great. Like you get to see some different things going on the bikes, and I think that's what you've always told me you've enjoyed it. the other thing, like I was mentioning with your posts, was I think when you're driving by yourself, a lot of like thoughts go through your head when you're alone. And so there was some really interesting thought processes coming out and things you were talking about, like insights you were getting sort of on the ride and just and everything else. And then like some of the struggles you had to put up. Like I know you're talking about the mosquitoes.
Oh, there was mosquitoes.
It was like either you were riding or you were hiding from the mosquitoes. Like you didn't have. There was
the only place I've seen mosquitoes worse than that was in Newfoundland. So.
So I do got a question for you, Jim. You said you spent about 30 nights sleeping in the bush.
Yeah.
What's your favorite way to sleep in the bush? Or do you bring a mat? Do you hammock guy, tent guy? What's your go-to method here?
Okay. On that trip, I used a one-man tent, and it happened to be a moss that I inherited from a family member. Very good little tent, super warm. Because it's double walled, not a lot of screen in it, so it warms up really quick. Disadvantage at my age, you got to be a contortionist to survive in a little tent like that. And
I was going to say, memory serves, they're pretty small.
Yeah, I'd often get cramps in my legs because you dehydrate and you go to move at night to turn around. At my age now, you have to get up quite often, so. The Gatorade bottle became a very useful item.
And that's fair. That's fair. You got any tips for us that are, and I'm looking at Ben and I, that are having more difficulty sleeping on the hard ground, maybe noticing it a little bit more?
I bought an X-Speed a sleeping mat, bought it used. It's got goose down lining on it, and it's good they claim it's good for -30. But what I like about it is that yes, it is comfortable. It's a little cooler because it doesn't absorb any ground heat, and it's warm. It does not absorb the cold from the ground either. So it kind of works good two ways. Pillows are always, especially when you got an old neck like mine that's been kind of beat up a little. Pillows are always a problem. I have a little inflatable pillow. That I bring a pillowcase and I stick it inside that, and then I usually stick a sweater in there too to just give it a little more. Sleeping bags are a problem because especially when you do an early spring trip like that, where sometimes it would be freezing at night, and then in the afternoon sometimes it was 30 degrees. So your sleeping bag is a problem. I had a light sleeping bag with me, but there was times I had to put my motorcycle jacket over my shoulders at night to stay. I've since bought a heavier sleeping bag, which is great in the cold weather, but I know it would be no good at all in weather that, say, the evening temperatures didn't drop below 15 degrees. It would be way too hot.
So, Ben and I have a little experience in perhaps not bringing the proper sleeping bags for a camping trip, don't we, Ben?
It's a challenging thing. The other thing I will mention when you talk about equipment, I pack a spot with me, and I carry it on my person when I'm riding. I do not have it in a saddlebag because if you go over the bank and you roll down there and break a leg somewhere down there 100 feet away from your motorcycle, that spot's not going to do you any good in the motorcycle. So pack it on your person in a safe place. Same with my cell phone. I try to pack my cell phone on my person. So that, and then a lot of spare parts, which makes common sense. When you're riding backcountry, it doesn't matter whether you're going out for a weekend, going to ride 200 or 300 kilometers backcountry. You got to have spare parts with you. You need tire repair equipment with you. I've never had to use it, touch my wooden head, but I pack it. It's a pain in the butt, but I pack 2 tubes. I pack patching equipment. I pack all my tire changing stuff, a small mini compressor, stuff like that. I put slime in my tires to reduce the speed of a leak if you pick up a screw or something like that. I don't have tubeless tires. I have tube tires. So obviously tools.
one rule you told me,
Yeah.
and this I think was an important one, is if you're working on your bike in the garage and you have to grab a tool from your toolbox, it now becomes part of the bike's kit.
Thanks. That's yes, that is an important thing. I try to repair my bike in my shop at home here with the tools I carry on my bike, and at least until I know that they'll work. And then sometimes I use more tools that are more efficient and speedy, but that you wouldn't pack. But
Okay.
yeah. Cooking equipment. Yeah, I don't think I can teach you guys anything about cooking equipment.
You had a really neat reason why you took the stove you took, and then how you modified the bike to make it better.
Okay. I have an old Primus stove, and it runs on gasoline. And I don't like using naphtha, and I don't like using propane because that means I got to pack that fuel with me. So, and the propane tanks are a pain because you never know how much is in them. And so that means you got to pack two of them. And so mine runs on gasoline, and so I put a T in my fuel line, put a petcock on there, and I have a little line that I can fill my my compression tank, pressure tank up with gasoline right out of my bike. I have a 23-liter tank on my bike, and if I'm in, like on all these long distances, I pack a 2-gallon roto pack on the back, which is 14 pounds of gear, which makes it heavy, but and
But if you're riding
you,
on the bike,
never
it's not
actually
like you're
needed it.
carrying it.
So we got a couple of questions here. One said, have you ever considered like a tow behind pop-up camper?
What do you want me to buy, a motorhome? No, absolutely not. Motorcycles should have 2 wheels and no trailer.
And the other one was
my opinion.
was
Sorry.
a list of all the bikes you've had.
Oh, good heavens! Not as many as you might think, because I owned. I had a couple of earlier bikes to get me into motorcycling. One of note was an early 70s Suzuki 750 3-cylinder water-cooled 2-stroke. They called it the Water Buffalo. It was actually mechanically it was all right, but it was not the greatest. I went from that into a BMW, and for road touring there was no comparison. I had a 1973 R75/5, and in 6 years I put 75,000 miles on it. It was in miles, not in kilometers in those days. Great machine. Lived off the bike. Camped. Never took. We had no money. I never took motels or anything like that. So, and then when I got back into motorcycling again, I bought a TW200. Because it would go nicely on the back of my travel trailer, which it did. But very quickly I realized that was not going to be a bike that I could go and ride with my brother, because it's too slow, and it was just not a very good dirt bike. It was a great trail bike. And so I then, on his advice, bought a brand new Suzuki DR650, which is what I have now. And I've modified it extensively. I did all the things. You can look it up. They need suspension work. They need a bigger fuel tank. There's a bunch of that stuff. I've done all that. I lowered my pegs. I had to monkey with my suspension linkage to get it, because I only got 30-inch legs, and I needed to be able to touch the ground. And that. And then I have for a hobby bike, I have a 1983 R100 RT BMW in all factory stock condition with collector plates on it. And I like to do, I did a 3,000 kilometer ride with it this spring. And I enjoy getting out on the highway on that bike. So purrs like a contented old cougar.
Nice bike. I've seen it a few times. So.
Anyway, And there's been, a few little bikes in between, but nothing of any consequence. So
Fair enough. That's our two
Hey, is that bike,
questions. We had
or is
Steve
that
join us there again tonight too, the Drifting Spore. He usually comes in and out as well. Not an actual full-size camper. They actually made tiny pop-up campers that you can buy with a motorcycle, or that you can tow with a motorcycle. Really lightweight, pretty neat. Man, I stumbled over that. Yeah, I've seen the ones that Danny's talking about here, and I'm sure Jim has too. I get the feeling you just don't believe in towing anything behind the bike.
I honestly, I don't think it would survive where we would go.
I can guarantee you it would not survive.
I was going to say, if you're going through a lot of rocky terrain, that usually puts the end of them. They're great for like on dirt roads, highway, ideally better, but I mean, you can get away with dirt roads, but where they do fold up.
On good gravel road.
I was going to say a lot of dust and stuff gets back in them, right? Especially if it's dry, dusty roads. And I used to have a little tow behind camper. It didn't have I shouldn't say camper, it was a trailer. And that was the biggest thing. It would always fill up with dust. Like, doesn't matter how well they're sealed, the thing was always had dust in it. And I couldn't imagine having a camper in there and like any of your sleeping arrangements having to basically vacuum it out every single time you go to use it. Or sticking to the highways, which, I mean, good traveling, not as necessarily as adventurous or as sightseeing.
Yeah, they would be fine. But I can tell you that setting up my little tent, I use now. I've actually got a 3-man tent that I use now. I still haven't got the ultimate tent. The ultimate tent for the kind of traveling or the kind of backcountry stuff I do would have like a vestibule that you could actually sit in outside and cook under, because it isn't always nice weather. So,
no, I think both of us have an option now to throw the bike in a trailer and tow that, so you can have a base camp, and that's something that would be more doable for the type of driving,
especially down here, because we got to drive.
2 hours to get away from the city.
Minimum 2 hours to get out of the city, and I find that, especially on the R650, that's not the most pleasant thing in the world. I don't really care for it. It's much more fun when you get in away from it, like the highways that we rode a few weeks ago here in Mexico. We did a 400-kilometer stretch on a highway called Highway 16, and it must have had, there's no exaggerating here at all, it had at least 500 switchbacks. I mean, it was a road made in heaven for adventure bikes, but you couldn't take your eye off the road, because you come in around the corner, there'd be a pothole the size of a bathtub right in front of you, and you had to be careful.
Fish here saying they make a tent you can actually park your bike in. I've seen pictures of those. It's like a little awning that goes over the tent. You can pull the bike right inside. They're quite the neat little rig. I have no idea how big or heavy those would be, but it'd be interesting if either one of you folks ever get one. I'd be interested to hear about it, because I can guarantee you I will probably never own one, just because of the type of bike I own. If I get rid of the darn thing and get something that's a little bit more indicative to adventure riding, then maybe.
I looked at a few. I don't know if you have.
The ones you can park your bike in, I mean, they weigh 15 pounds. Like, you're not going to pack a tent like that. What I'm talking about is actually made by Big Agnes, and they're called the Blacktail Hotel 2. I haven't bought one yet. But it's got a little vestibule on the side that you could put your camp chair in, that you could put your little table, and you could cook in there, and it's outside the actual tent, but it's connected to it, and it looks like and they only weigh 6 pounds, maybe 7.
So if I did this right, I should have a picture of that up on our broadcast here, and it was the Blacktail Hotel 2. For those of you watching through YouTube, good on you for joining us. But yeah, you can totally see what Jim's talking about there. That's actually a really nice design, all in all.
Yeah, for me, a 2-person tent is big enough, especially if it's got a place that you can put your duffel bag and your riding gear in out of the weather. the Hotel 3 is a 3-person tent, and it's got quite a bit bigger floor space in the tent, but it also weighs another couple pounds, and everything's got a compromise.
So you think the one I took the last time was too big?
Well, you managed to do it. Hey,
that one's not heavy. That's a little bulky, but
so it was nice when it rained.
I tell you.
So unfortunately, gentlemen, we are coming up on our 30-minute mark there. We just had a little warning down there. I'm sure Ben's seen it too. One last question here. What would you say is the best all-around size bike for woods travel trail riding? I always wanted a street and trail, and this comes from Steve. You folks would be a little better on this than I would, seeing I own a 1200 sport bike. Not really exactly the same thing.
I think it depends. If you've got long legs, anything up to 650, are great bikes because you can ride them on the highway. I mean, you can put 500 kilometers on the highway on them at 110, 120 kilometers an hour. If you get smaller than that, then you're going to start limiting that. The disadvantage when you get into the 650s is they're heavy. I think it's like boats. They're all a compromise. It's hard to say there's an ideal bike that'll do everything. That's
my 2 cents on the subject, just throwing my ring in the hat here, is a good intro bike that I tell people about, and like I said, not coming from personal experience. Well, I did own one for a short time, but anyway, the KLR 650 is one that I used to recommend as a good entry level because the price was okay, gets you feeling around. They also make a KLR 450 now, little smaller bike, less weight, little better balance. That's also a really great entry point too. And then, like these gentlemen over here said, once you kind of figure out what you want to do with it, then you can kind of figure out what bike you want to go for from there, which is kind of a universal truth to all motorcycling. Depending on what you want to do and how you ride, more or less dictates what kind of bike is good for you. There is no, here's the magic bike that's going to be best for you.
That's right. Do your homework. My brother rode a KLR 650 carbureted model right to the tip of Terra del Fuego, South America, from the Mexican border, and then rode it all the way back up to Valparaiso, Chile. And mechanically very sound bike, but no power. The DR650 is a more powerful bike. He's got KTMs, and he just bought a DR650, and we did the ride to Mexico together with it. They're a John Deere tractor. They're tough, dependable, and simple.
Yeah, and that's what Fish was saying here in the comments too. Another one that, if you have the money, because it is a little bit more expensive, the Honda African Twins are actually a really nice adventure bike too.
Yeah, so big though.
Yeah, I think those are especially if you're an experienced rider, nice bike. Like Mark rides a 1190 KTM. The new models are 1290s. Beautiful machines, but that's way too much bike for me.
Yeah.
At my age, I'm not strong enough anymore for that.
And that's the other follow-up I'd go with this, is bigger's not always better, especially depending on where you're going. If you're jumping around a lot of tight trails, loose rocks, and things like that, you got to find that balance point between it's got enough power to pull your butt where you need it to go, but it's not so heavy that it's fighting you the entire way, because the lighter it is, the less exhausted you're going to be at the end of the day, and it's just less weight to hold up. So if something does fall over, things don't go as catastrophic as fast. What's your thoughts, Ben? Because I do know we literally got like 4 minutes left here.
The one thought I got is a lot of bikes are going to turn out to be capable of a lot more than the rider is capable of. So when you go out and buy a bike and you find it, it's capable of this, you may not be the capable thing. And that's where I am sometimes. Like, I've gotten to some places. It's not that my bike can't do it. I won't say that. But I can't do it on that bike, And a different bike, maybe I could. So I have a dirt bike, and if I try to take the dirt bike, I'll take it in places I won't get the V-Strom because I'm driving that. But again, it's situational. So, find what balance works for you, because there's a ton of good bikes out there. but they're not perfect for everyone.
Yeah, like the country that we rode in, the off-road part of the Mexican trip that we just did, the 1190s would have been a major handful to ride through that. The 650, my brother could ride that. Where I was bouncing off the road and falling over, he could ride that like it was pavement because he's experienced. But the bike is much more maneuverable and easier, and it's air cooled. It's you got no, you can fix them with a couple of small tools.
On that note, like I said, we kind of are at the end of our time here. So any closing thoughts from you folks?
Then
Well, what I always say is get out there and have fun. Like, get out there and enjoy that. And I think like this is one of the things that Jim emphasizes to me, or I take some to lead on, is that you can always get out there. There's always a way to get out and do something, and there's always it's definitely worth the trip, and it's worth seeing things that other people have never seen or may never ever see. Right? Like you get some pretty cool stuff.
Step outside your comfort zone. It's never as bad as it looks in the book.
All right, folks, you've as Ben said, get out there, have fun, play safe, and be sure to share your adventures. And I guess the last question going off for you, Jim, is if you continue your adventures, which it sounds like you are, you free to come back some other time and maybe we'll check in with you?
Well, thank you very much. I'd appreciate that. I thank you so much for letting me share my stories. I think what you guys do is an amazing thing, and I'm very, very happy to be part of it. And anytime I can help you, I'd be happy.
Awesome. So once again, thanks, Jim, for joining us here. You're going to have to check him out on Facebook, and if I find anything else there, I'll include it in the description. And thanks to everybody that joined us in the comments over here. Of course, we have Fish, Danny, Steve, Eric, all joined us there. Anybody else I missed? Sorry about that, folks. But everybody get out there, have fun, be safe, and be sure to tell us about your adventures. Until next week, everybody, have a good one.
Night all.